Hi everyone, it's Miss M, and this is our second online class together. Last week we talked about, I just totally drew a blank. What did we talk about last week? Oh, we talked about the teaching profession. And you guys had an assignment where you were writing about why you wanted to be a teacher. Right. Sorry about that. I remember. This week on Monday night in class, we're going to be doing an activity where you guys are going to complete a survey, and then we're going to discuss the concept of educational philosophy. And we learned about different types of educational philosophy, like there is essentialism, and then a practical philosophy. Of course, like I'm totally drawing a blank. I know all these by heart, I swear. Perennialism, reconstructionism. We're going to learn those words on Monday. What I want to talk about in this video is what's the difference between an educational philosophy and a teaching philosophy. So you might notice on the survey you took in class, at the top it says Teaching Philosophy Inventory. And then we go through it and you get to a point, it's like taking a quiz in a magazine where you answer all these questions, and then if you answer A 5 times, then you are more likely to enjoy pina coladas on the beach or whatever. But, if you answer A so many times, then you're more likely an existentialist, or you're more likely a perennialist. Those educational philosophies are things that have already been predefined by the field of education. So if you are taking any class in education and they bring up, that you are a teacher who believes in a theory of reconstructivism or socialism in the classroom, and those words have a little bit different meaning than they do in the political arena when we're talking about the classroom, then everyone kind of knows what that means. So that's education philosophy. A teaching philosophy, even though it says teaching philosophy on the top of your survey, a teaching philosophy is a personal statement that you write about why you want to be a teacher, what kind of teacher you want to be, and how you think kids learn best or students learn best. So the words or the phrases educational philosophy and teaching philosophy are often used interchangeably, and people will say one and say the other to mean the same thing. Like my first job, I had to write a philosophy of education statement. Well, they didn't really want a philosophy of education statement. They wanted me to write my teaching philosophy. And then when I applied for a job at TCC, I had to write a teaching philosophy statement. And it was the same thing. It's all about, it's my personal statement of what I believe belongs in the classroom. And just so you know, when someone asks you to write a statement like that for an application or something, like here at TCC, that was not just because they wanted to see what kind of a teacher I was or what my beliefs were. It was also to see if I could write using things like capital letters, correct spelling, periods at the end of my sentences. So whenever anyone asks you to do something like that, don't blow it off. They're looking for more than your ideas, most likely. But anyway, so what you're going to do this week is play with the idea of both. So we did the assessment in class, and we talked about what those different types of educational philosophy are. I will tell you here, if we run out of time in class, I'll come back and make another video where we talk about those educational philosophies. But we played with it a little bit in class, and you kind of got a feel for what it means. What I'd like you to do for your assignment this week, for your online assignment, is watch this video, and then I'd like you to write a teaching philosophy statement. And I've actually put in Canvas my teaching philosophy statement that I wrote several years ago so that you can kind of read a sample. I don't want you to worry about it being too formal. I'm even okay if you maybe write an intro paragraph and then a bullet list and then a closing paragraph, because it's something that I know most of you haven't done before. But I want you to start thinking what do I think it takes to be a good teacher? What do my students need to have from me? What kind of person do I need to be? What's my value system or my belief system? Are you the kind of person who thinks that kids need to get their hands on something to learn? Do you think that kids can just learn one thing at a time? Do you think that you can pick a theme for your classroom and then build all your lessons into that theme? Or do you think it should be more segmented? None of those things are right or wrong. It's where you're coming from. And when you, as a teacher, know where you're coming from, it's easier for you to meet your students halfway. You have to have a starting point. When you have a starting point, you can kind of go anywhere. But if you're like loosey-goosey and don't know what you think who you think you are as a teacher, and you don't get a clear understanding of how your teaching is different from this person as a teacher, it's harder to kind of ground yourself. I hope that made sense. If it doesn't, someday it will, I promise. But for now, just remember, there's educational philosophies, and those are kind of predefined. There's teaching philosophies, and that's a personal statement. And in the field of teaching, people will use those interchangeably, and they will mean one or the other when they're talking about it. If someone ever asks you to write your personal educational philosophy, do not write a detailed description of the 5 or 6 philosophies that you just learned in class. Write your teaching philosophy statement. Got it? Excellent. So your assignment this week is to write your own teaching philosophy statement. Again, this is a first draft type of thing. This is not something to get too crazy about, and I'll write some more details in the assignment instructions. All right, I'll see you next week.